9,000 feet. I'm glad I'm carrying a little bit of gear. Just what I need for the day. Just what I need for a night. And what I got it wrapped up in is my Patoo. It's time tested. It's been a piece of gear I've employed for years. Today I'm gonna give you a little bit more info about it, so stick around. Let's kick this off. Set these guys right there. So the Patoo comes from mountains of the Hindu Kush within Pakistan and Afghanistan. Essentially what it is, it's a giant piece of cloth. And many of the sheep and goat herders and farmers in and around Pakistan and Afghanistan would use this system as a couple different things. One, as a blanket. Two, as a method of camouflage. Three, as a method of carrying a lot of their own personal gear. And that's what I've kind of adopted it as, is a method to carry my gear as well as a blanket. I don't necessarily use it for camouflage or screening or masking. It could be, but that's not what I employ it for. So let's unroll it. I'll give you a look at what is exactly in the Patoo. First things first, what's in the Patoo is I have a small bundle. And what's in this bundle is a bunch of pieces of gear and things that I would use for a day, maybe even 3 days. But this will be something I'll go over here in a second. But the Patoo is a piece of cloth. Typically it's made out of wool, a mixture of wool and synthetic materials. And it's really just a giant sized piece of cloth. Typically they go in lengths of about 74 to 78 inches. And they're about maybe about 3.5 to 4 feet wide. So just over 6.5 feet long, maybe 7 feet long, and about 3.5 to 4 feet wide. And you can see that this one is about 74 inches long. Now I'm 6'2", so whenever I get a Patoo or I make a Patoo, and I like to make sure it's going to cover my entire body, head to toe, in the event that I have to use it as a blanket, which 99% of the time I do. As well as that width, I like to make sure it's wide enough to cover my shoulders and just gently wrap underneath my shoulders, or to lay on it in its entirety. Most of your traditional Patoos come in a variety of different fibers, whether it's 100% wool, whether it's a wool synthetic blend, or whether it's 100% synthetic. This is a wool synthetic blend, and it just gives me the opportunity, based on the season, to employ a different style Patoo. If it's really cold out, I'll go 100% wool. If it's summertime, I'll use something synthetic. Now this one I've had for several years, and you know, if you sleep next to a fire, they will get holes, they will burn. It is one of those things that is a piece of material. The great thing about the Patoo, it is a very easy way of carrying gear. I'll demonstrate a little bit later on the two methods that I like to employ. One is the over the shoulder and the other one is around the waist. But what this really allows me to do is take a simple set of gear for the day or a couple days, wrap it all up inside of a bundle, throw it inside my Patoo, and take off. The Patoo gives me versatility. It gives me the ability to maneuver quickly throughout the bush. It gives me the ability to climb over rocks, climb under rocks and logs, and it eliminates me getting snagged up on really anything because I don't have a large cumbersome pack on my back. It also manages what I'm going to be packing. It's very easy to get a backpack and fill that bad boy up with everything you think you might need, when the reality is you really don't need that much. The Patoo forces a person to really pack appropriately, manage their own expectations, say, is this a need or is this a want? Is this a needed piece of gear or just a piece of gear I want to have with me in the bush? Patoo eliminates that. It forces you to make those really accurate decisions and employ a good set of knowledge instead of buying all the ideal pieces of gear to supplement that knowledge. Patoos come in a variety of colors. I like most of mine to be a little bit more earthy colors and natural, whether it's browns, it's greens, tans like this, but it's really up to the person and the Patoo that they're employing. It's up for you to decide. For those of you at home, if you don't want to reach out to one of your contacts in Pakistan or Afghanistan, or try to find one of those Middle Eastern markets and buy a Patoo, the easiest way to create your own Patoo at home is to go to your local fabric store and find a piece of fabric that's on sale, and they sell them in bolts, and get a big bolt of fabric and cut it at 74 inches in length. And typically once that bolt is unfolded in half, it's right around 3 feet, 3.5 feet to even 4 feet. So you can simply just go cut a 74 to 76, 80-inch long piece of fabric and just naturally unfold it off that bolt, and you'll have a patoo. The downside when you do that is the ends could definitely fray over time, but you can find a cheap piece of ribbon or even sew the end shut, kind of hem it like you would a pair of pants, and you can avoid all that together. So in this case, let me just give you a down and dirty of what this kit entails as far as today. Now, typically when I roll out in the bush, I like to take my kit and just throw it inside of a shmog and just wrap it up. It's just easy to maintain, and it gives me a little bit more discipline as far as the noise and things jumping around and moving around inside my patoo. So for this, a little bit snowy, I have some nut flour that I'm going to make some ash cakes with in a little bit. A small little bowl. Let's see, one little stone blade, some cat cordage. I have one leather leaf to catch coals for a friction fire. I have one little hearth board for hand drill. I have a hand bone chopper, a stone sling, and one piece of sinew. And that's pretty much it as far as the kit that I have with me for today, tonight, and maybe a couple days. What I'm gonna do real quick is I'm gonna load everything back up in my my little bundle. I'll show you how I tie it up, how I load it up in my patoo, especially if I'm trying to avoid it rolling it up on the ground with all this snow. I'll show you how I tie it up, and we'll get on with the day. Find that corner. Cool thing is you can kind of roll in segments and sections. Once I've got it folded, fold it over once, fold it over again. What's that? Oh, there's my sling, it's all right. One leather tie. Tie it up, that's my bundle. This is my patoo. Now I'll show you how I get it all sealed up and ready to move out. Now I'm going to show you how I condense everything into the patoo, how I tie it up, how I throw it over my shoulder, or how I wrap it around my waist and take on off. Clearly there's snow on the ground, and one of the easiest ways to really wrap up your patoo is to do it when it's lying flat on the ground. If that's not an option, right now I got all this snow, so I'm going to do a hanging wrap, which is pretty similar to any other style of wrap if you were on the ground or in any sort of wet area and you don't want your patoo to get completely saturated. All I'm going to do is take my patoo, take the full length of it, fold it in half, corner to corner, just like you would anything. Give it a nice fold. Then I'm going to take this corner in my left hand and I'm going to hold it straight up in front of my face. I'm going to put it right in my mouth. Then I'm going to take my bundle that I want to really secure everything in, and I'm going to wrap it from my mouth all the way down to the ground. And all I'm going to do is just roll this. And I'm going to flare out these sides each and every time so I don't get a big knot of material, and it's going to really trap my bundle on the inside of the patoo. I just keep rolling until I meet that other far corner from the one that I was holding in my mouth. Ideally, you'd like it to line up. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Then I'm going to hold this guy right underneath my arm, and I'm going to take a couple ties. Ties are optional. I like to use them. It just secures my ends. And your ties can be paracord, piece of leather, whatever the case may be, just something to tie these ends up so nothing slides out. Tie, you can do it a bow, you can do a square knot, granny knot, just something that's going to secure it. Once I have that tie in, I kind of squeeze this end down, pull out my next tie, tie it up, and I'm looking just like that. Once I have everything tied off, I'm going to come right to my tips. These two tips, I'm just going to tie these in a little square knot little overhand knot, just a little securing knot that allows me to sling this over my shoulder. And away I go. Now that I have it secured, knotted here, nothing's going to slide out the back. This gives me mobility, gives me the option to employ an atlatl, employ a bow, do any manner of things. It's really nice to crawl underneath trees. I don't have a lot of obstructions in my way, so this is my preferred way of carrying it. Let me show you the waist carry. So just like you would after you've secured your bundle on the inside, I'm just going to throw this bad boy around your waist. Now the key is to have this little piece of flap kind of opening downward. Just going to tie it around your waist, just like you would any piece of material. Yeah, away you go. Again, it's about mobility, the ability to move in between trees, jump over rocks, not have a big cumbersome backpack on your back, so you can move quickly throughout the bush, or just have a little bit more freedom of movement as you're moving from one spot to another. So that pretty much concludes the Pattoo, how I go about wrapping it, how I move throughout the bush with it. It's a real simple piece of gear. I enjoy it because it really manages what I'm going to pack when I'm heading out in the bush for a single day or even for a couple days. It really captures my gear, keeps it nice and close to my body, gives me great freedom of movement throughout the bush if I'm jumping underneath trees, going underneath logs, climbing over rocks, whatever the case may be. It also gives me the ability to employ all manner of weapon systems, from a stone sling to an atlatl to even a bow. It's a really nice, easy, compact way of carrying your kit, carrying your gear, and heading out into the bush.